Let's go to a couple other issues. Iraq, you supported the war, but now you're against the war. What, in Bob Barr's view, should be done now about Iraq?
I don't agree, Jim, with all due respect in the way you framed the question. Supporting the resolution to remove Saddam Hussein, that is supporting the war resolution, is one thing. Supporting the war now is not a relevant question because it's not a war now, it's an occupation. I voted, as many members did, based on the information that we were given back in 2002 with regard to a specific, very timely, very limited threat. And in response to that, a very specific, very limited resolution to take military action against the Saddam Hussein regime. The intelligence turned out to be, shall we say, faulty, the analysis incorrect. But more important than that, of course, is the fact that the administration has taken that very limited, specifically oriented resolution and stretched it into something it was never intended to be, and that is a resolution for the occupation of a foreign nation. That is wrong. It was wrong when it started. It is wrong now, and it ought to be ended.
Let's get some callers in. If you want to give us a call, the numbers will be up on the screen overseas and here in the United States. Give us a call and ask Bob Barr a question. Another issue where you voted for the Patriot Act but have expressed real concern about the excesses to which the administration has gone on several issues. And I want to ask you about those, specifically wiretapping and I guess the general, I'd bunch them together as violations of the Fourth Amendment, search and seizure, data mining in general, which I look at as a kind of search and seizure. What can be done about this at this point? And did you not foresee some of this in the discussions around the Patriot Act 7 years ago?
We certainly did foresee it, Jim, and this is why I really was in the forefront of efforts to amend the original version of the legislation that came up to the Congress right after 9/11. And we were able to secure at least some amendments that the administration did agree to before it was introduced for a vote that did scale back some of the more problematic provisions in the original Patriot Act. We also, though, foresaw many problems, and that's why we incorporated in the Patriot Act that did pass the Congress in 2001 a number of sunset provisions. We were hoping to sunset the entire piece of legislation. We didn't have the votes to, but we were able to sunset about 12.5 provisions. But yes, we did see the abuses and the problems. The main issue that caused me to become a very vocal opponent of the USA Patriot Act shortly after it was in fact enacted into law was the fact that in every instance in which the administration at the very highest levels gave myself and other members of Congress in order to support the Patriot Act assurances that, one, it would not be used for purposes other than important intelligence investigation, secondly, that the administration would not seek to expand it, and thirdly, that the administration would report completely, openly, and truthfully to the Congress on how the USA Patriot Act was being used. In every one of those instances, the administration failed to meet the obligations it promised to us. It immediately started using them and uses the provisions to this day for cases and investigations that have nothing whatsoever to do with terrorism. Secondly, the administration moved immediately to begin trying to expand the USA Patriot Act. And thirdly, to this day, the administration has resisted virtually every effort by the Congress to have the administration report to it fully and completely and openly on how the act was being used.
Let's go to Massachusetts for a call. Caller?
Yes, my question is, we see Senator McCain and Obama always on the TV and campaigning very hard. On the other hand, we don't see that much, and you're running for the presidency of the United States. And do you made up your mind and pick up a running mate yet?
Okay, listen, I think I get your question. You're not getting enough television coverage, Bob Barr. How do you deal with that? Can it be dealt with?
Well, we certainly appreciate being with you and your many viewers today, Jim. And we are working very hard to convince the other cable networks and the television, the commercial networks, to include Bob Barr as the legitimate third-party libertarian nominee. But it is an uphill battle always because our country's political system and the major media, at least, are so very much oriented toward a two-party system. But we're aiming to change that, and thus far we've been very successful, I think, in terms of earned media. With regard to your caller's question about a running mate, the Libertarian Party selects the running mate for the presidential nominee. We did that at our convention in Denver, Colorado over the Memorial Day weekend. My running mate, the Libertarian Party's vice presidential nominee, is a small businessman from Las Vegas, Nevada, Wayne Allen Root.
Let's go to Massachusetts. No, I think we're going to Texas for a call. Caller? Hello?
Hello?
Yes, your question.
Yeah, my question is, recently Newt Gingrich has said most of the presidential debates are Mickey Mouse debates and there is no substance in that. And what I notice is most of the advertisements also, they're very superficial. That in any way they're going to enlighten an average voter.
Thank you. Thank you for the comment. I think some astute observations that you're making, especially about the TV ads. We've had a special show just on the ads and how they played into this race. Let me go to California for one more question. Caller? Hello?
Hello?
Yes, your question.
Yes, I wanted to ask a question regarding the Military Commission Act. Well, first, I was wondering first if I could ask your guest. I mean, I actually counter something he had said earlier about Bush not being, there was no evidence for him to be impeached.
Go ahead, make the observation, because I'm going to cut you off right after that because I want to get his answers, and then we've got to go to a break.
Okay, I just wanted to let him know the Rebuilding America's Defenses documents and Dick Cheney having aerial combat exercises in 9/11 having going on that day surely proves something right there. And Dick Cheney's prior CEO to Al Halliburton, Bush lying about weapons of mass destruction, and the FBI told him there was nothing there. And I just want to know how you thought about the Military Commission Act, making it easy for anyone to be
thank you. Thank you very much. Bob?
First of all, I obviously didn't make my prior comments sufficiently clear, and I appreciate the caller pointing that out. I did not say that there was no evidence warranting an impeachment of this president. What I said was very clearly, I think there is sufficient allegations of wrongdoing to warrant an inquiry by the Congress in order to gather the specific intelligence in order to answer the ultimate question of whether there ought to be an impeachment. And Congress has failed to follow up on those allegations through proper hearings in order to gather the evidence and marshal the evidence in an appropriate way. With regard to the Military Commissions Act, I believe that as the recent Supreme Court decision finding fault with the way the administration has been attempting to deny the most fundamental right of anybody detained by the government, that is the right of habeas corpus, that the Military Commissions Act is woefully deficient in terms of providing the minimal base level of rights to those detained in order to determine whether or not they should continue to be held and whether or not they are guilty of anything. I do not believe that further challenges will be or that I believe that further challenges will result in additional court decisions that find that the Military Commissions Act is deficient in other ways as well.
Thank you, Congressman Barr, for joining us, and maybe we'll get you in again sometime before the election. Thanks for being here.
Look forward to it, Jim, and I would urge your viewers to go to bobbar2008.com to find out more in the meantime.